Have you ever felt just completely stuck? Like no matter what you try, you just end up in the same place with the same problems, making the exact same choices. It is so frustrating, right? And it can make you feel kind of powerless. But what if I told you there's a real reason for it? And more importantly, there's a way to break free. Today, we're going to dive into the science of why we get stuck in these patterns and how we can finally take back the controls.
Really think about it for a second. Maybe for you, it's always ending up with the same type of romantic partner. Or maybe you find yourself job hopping every couple of years for the exact same reasons. It could even be a constant battle with your finances where you just never seem to get ahead. If any of that sounds familiar, you're not alone. This feeling of being stuck on a loop, it's not just in your head. It's a real psychological thing. So here's the best way to picture what's happening. You're following an invisible script. Yeah, that's right. It's like a set of pre-written lines and stage directions that are guiding your decisions, your reactions, your behaviors, often without you even having a clue it's there. You're the star of your own life, but you didn't even write the script. Okay, so let's get right into this. If we're all following a script, two huge questions pop up immediately, right? One, who wrote this thing? And two, why do we feel so compelled to follow it even when it's clearly, obviously not working for us anymore? That is exactly what we're going to uncover.
And look, this isn't some abstract, theoretical idea. These scripts show up in very real, everyday ways. It might be that chronic overspending that feels less about math and more about, a feeling you're chasing. Or maybe it's that pattern of jumping from job to job, always for the same reason. It could be choosing a similar partner again and again, putting off your biggest goals, or finding yourself in the exact same arguments with people you care about. These are the patterns. These are the scenes from our invisible scripts playing out on repeat.
So, who are the authors? Who's writing these scripts that run our lives? Well, it turns out there are three main ghostwriters working behind the scenes. They're the ones shaping our thoughts and actions from the shadows. So I think it's about time we pull back the curtain and meet them, one by one. Our first ghostwriter is something called schemas. Think of schemas as mental blueprints or shortcuts. They get built from our earliest experiences, things like how our parents talked about money or how love and affection were shown in our childhood home. These frameworks help us make sense of the world really fast, but they can also trap us. So if your early schema for a relationship involved a lot of conflict, you might unconsciously look for or even create that same conflict in your adult relationships just because it feels familiar.
Now, our second ghostwriter is the self-fulfilling prophecy. And oh man, this one is powerful. It all starts with a simple belief you have about yourself. For instance, if you've got a scarcity mindset and you truly believe deep down, I'll just never have enough money, that belief is going to quietly change how you act. You'll be less likely to save. Maybe you'll avoid investing, which of course pretty much guarantees that you never have enough money. Your belief literally creates your reality.
And this cycle right here shows exactly how that trap works. It's a vicious loop. Step one, it starts with the belief, I'm just not good with money. Then, step two, that belief changes your behavior. You avoid budgeting or looking at your bank statements. Step three, that behavior leads to the predictable outcome. You run out of money. And then, here's the killer. Step four, that outcome reinforces your original belief. You tell yourself, see, I knew it. I told you I was bad with money. And the whole loop starts over, only now it's even stronger.
And the third ghostwriter? It's the actual wiring of our brains. Specifically, the huge difference between routines and habits. See, a routine is a deliberate, conscious choice. It's you deciding, I'm going to go to the gym at 6 a.m. It takes planning and effort. A habit, though, a habit is totally different. It's automatic. It's triggered by a cue. It's you grabbing your phone the instant it buzzes, without a single thought. So many of our destructive patterns aren't actually conscious choices at all. They're these deeply automatic habits running on autopilot.
Okay, so if habits are running on autopilot, what makes them so incredibly hard to break? Well, the answer lies with a tiny but mighty brain chemical you've probably heard of, dopamine. Let's dive into what I call the dopamine trap and see how it literally keeps us hooked on the past.
This quote from a researcher at Johns Hopkins it nails the problem perfectly. Our brains aren't neutral. They are fundamentally biased. They don't just sit there and calmly weigh the pros and cons. Nope. Instead, our attention gets automatically yanked toward things that gave us a nice, rewarding dopamine hit in the past. Your brain remembers that fettuccine was delicious, and it subtly directs your focus right back to it, whether you want it to or not. And here is where that trap gets really insidious. let's just walk through this cycle. So step 1, you experience a reward. Let's say you eat a cookie. Step 2, your brain floods with dopamine, which is basically a little signal that says, yes, that was good, do that again. But if you do it too often, in step 3, your dopamine receptors start to get overwhelmed. So what does the brain do? In step 4, it protects itself. It starts reducing the number of available receptors. And the result? You guessed it, step 5. Now you need a bigger hit. More cookies, more social media scrolling just to get the same feeling. This is the biological root of tolerance and, yeah, addiction.
Okay, so I know this might all be sounding a little bleak. We've got invisible scripts, we've got ghostwriters, we've got a brain that seems wired to trap us. But right here, this is the turning point. This is the good news, and I mean it's really, really good news. Your brain's script is not permanent. And the reason why is this incredible concept called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is honestly one of the most hopeful and exciting discoveries in all of science. It means your brain isn't set in stone. It's more like plastic. It can be molded and reshaped. Every single time you learn something new, have a new experience, or even just think a new thought, you are physically rewiring your brain. This means change isn't just a nice idea. It's literally built into your brain's design.
So, how does this whole neuroplasticity thing actually work? Well, a great way to think about it is to imagine the pathways in your brain are like trails in a forest. The paths you stop using get overgrown with weeds and eventually disappear. That's the use it or lose it principle. But the new paths you decide to walk every day, those get clearer, wider, and easier to travel. That's use it and improve it. You are literally paving new roads in your brain every time you practice a new behavior. Which of course brings us to the most practical part. If our brains are rewritable, how do we actually pick up the pen and start a new draft? Let's walk through a simple but incredibly powerful 3-step framework for putting neuroplasticity into action in your own life.
The whole process, which is drawn from fields like cognitive behavioral therapy and habit science, really boils down to these 3 steps. It's actually pretty straightforward. First, you have to get clear on the script you're following. You have to identify the pattern. Second, you have to find a way to stop that automatic reaction in its tracks. You interrupt the response. And third, you have to consciously build a new, better path. You create a new routine.
Okay, step 1, in identification. This is all about radical self-honesty. It means you start asking yourself some tough questions. When you find yourself procrastinating, what are you really avoiding? Is it fear of failure? Is it boredom? What feedback do you keep hearing from other people that you just brush off? You have to become a detective of your own behavior. It's the first and most critical step because you can't change a pattern you can't see.
All right, once you can see the pattern, you have to interrupt it. Throw a wrench in the gears. For example, if your default setting is to always take control in a meeting, practice the opposite. Deliberately stay quiet and let someone else lead. You could also try what's called a dopamine fast, just taking a break from something like social media or junk food for a few days to reset your brain. Even just changing your environment, like hiding the cookies or putting your running shoes right by the door, can interrupt an old cue and create just enough space for you to make a new choice.
And finally, step 3, you have to proactively build the new pathway you actually want. This is where you give your brain healthier, more sustainable sources of dopamine. Setting and achieving tiny goals, I mean tiny, like saving just $5 or meditating for 2 minutes, that releases dopamine and builds momentum. Research also shows that doing healthy but difficult things, like a hard workout or even a cold shower, can actually improve your whole dopamine system over time. And finding those flow states, getting lost in a hobby, a good book, or meaningful work, that provides a deep sense of reward without the crash.
This quote by Samuel Johnson really just says it all, doesn't it? The chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken. These patterns, these invisible scripts, they don't feel like a prison at first. They're just these small, automatic choices we make every day. It's only after years and years that their combined weight becomes so heavy, it feels impossible to change. But as we've just seen, it is absolutely not impossible.
So this all brings us down to the final and really the only question that matters. Knowing your brain is rewritable, knowing you are not doomed to just repeat the past, and knowing you have the tools to make a change, what's the first new line you're going to write in your own script starting today?